Hey, need all the help I can get. What can I
Always glad
say?
to be
But
here.
your
Thank
hair is beautiful.
you.
And we've also welcoming my dear teacher and sister and lineage holder, Nicki Scully. This is Nicki's third time on the show, but it's the first time, I think it's the first time she's been on by herself. So I really want to welcome Nicki and welcome her to the show. She's just returned from Egypt recently and just finished a book and is finishing another book. And my goodness, she's a busy girl. So, Miss Nicki Scully, thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you for having me. It's really good to see you, and it's always fun to rave on the radio or webinar or whatever you call it.
I just call it the show.
The
It's
show.
so much easier than trying to go back and forth between video or radio or whatever somebody's listening to. So if you think that I'm a little bit hoarse, you're right. My friend Tina would love that I was hoarse. But not this kind of hoarse. Had bronchitis or whooping cough, possibly. Not too sure. Was in the hospital for a couple of days. But I'm getting better. And today I've been up
And
and
you're showing
working
up.
most of the day. Yeah, so I'm delighted to have the show running again. Delighted to have all you here. And I'm waiting a little bit here before we get started because we've got people still coming in. And I know that we've got about 35 people that have signed up to be on the show tonight to listen in. I want to give them some time to get here. I do appreciate all the viewers, whether you're viewing us on the live show or whether you're viewing on YouTube later. It's I know that it's your time, and I want to make your time worthwhile. So one of the things I'd love to hear from you is what you'd like to hear. So if you'd like to see a person or a particular speaker, let me know. Or if you have a particular subject you'd like us to cover, maybe we'll do some different things this coming year. One of the things we're going to be doing is something called the master classes. And they're going to be separate. They will be paid for classes. And those are going to be classes where we're going into a particular subject at a very deep level. And we want to get those subjects to be the ones that you're interested in. So let us know particularly what you're particularly interested in, and let us know who you'd like to hear from. And if you, like I said, if you'd like to be on yourself, let me know. My practice with the show is to basically try and have two people on each month that are well known, whether they're Nicki or someone else, and then to have two people on who aren't quite so well known or maybe up and coming, because I think that they should have the opportunity to speak to you as well, because a lot of them have really great knowledge and wisdom and opportunities for you to learn from them, but because they haven't written 5 or 6 books or gotten themselves out there, they're just beginning to be heard. So I'd like to give you the opportunity to hear some of, not necessarily the young ones, because some of them aren't so young, but the newer ones that are coming into the space of being priestesses. We want to support all priestesses. We are, and our priests as well. So we have several men who are our dedicated listeners now, and I believe that we can also help them as well. So, Nicki, we always begin with the same question, and your option is how you want to answer it. So what would you tell us that how you began on the priestess path?
Oblivious. I would say it was my years of hanging out with the Grateful Dead and going to concerts and doing ceremony in the background hidden before the shows and holding space and troubleshooting and not knowing that that was a form of priestessing and not understanding that the Grateful Dead were my first shaman teachers and that those experiences were true shamanic experiences. They're just, we just had no perspective of looking at them that way. It took many decades of retrospection to understand the fundamental relationship between my years of that I dedicated while living with Rock Scully, who just passed away, who was in some sense a kind of a masters of ceremony behind the scenes of that whole trip, and how that impacted me and what I learned from that is still fundamental to everything that I do. It's as though the visions that we had in the 60s and 70s particularly laid the foundation for who I was to become. And if anybody had asked me at the time, I wouldn't have even known what they were talking about. But when I look back, I'm about to be 71 years old.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. I'm still 39, so.
And I look back all those years, and you know, because people are always saying, well, where did it start? When did it start? And I think that that's where it started. And then, of course, when they took me to Egypt, and I reconnected with that magic and then began to make relationships with that pantheon, although I didn't understand that when I was taking groups to Egypt and going into the temples and working directly with the different gods and goddesses, I didn't see myself as a priestess until later, looking back and realizing, oh, that's what a priestess does. And so, as in everything else in my life, my coming into priestessing was unconventional, to say the least.
You know, I've interviewed now, I think 54 people on this show. And what I know is that out of all of those people, I don't think but one or two could say that they had a conventional path into being a priestess. Some of them were drugged kicking and screaming. Some of them didn't know they were a priestess until they were standing at the altar doing ceremony. Some of them found themselves in the position of being a priestess because there was nobody else there to do it, and somebody had to pick up the responsibility. And, you know, it's interesting because it's like we have a whole generation, not only of the ones who are our age, but the ones who are coming up, who have accepted this mantle of being a priestess. And there was a lot of stuff in the 90s and what have you about, you know, the goddess and being the goddess we are. But we serve the goddess as a priestess. And I think that that's owning that position of responsibility is part of what we've had to move into in order to make the difference that we are making now. Making the difference with the children, with the families.
I think we have to realize that those of us who came in the kind of unconventional ways in the 60s and 70s didn't really have teachers. And there's a huge difference now because there are many programs that are based on priestessing and what that requires and how to do it right. if there's such a thing. But there certainly are some fundamentals to priestessing that can and should be taught and need to be passed on so that these next generations don't have to reinvent the wheel in the way that so many of us did.
I agree totally with you. So, Raven, since you are the altar holder of all altar holders, I think that, I'd like you to weigh in on this subject as well, because one of the things that I know that you do so well is hold the altar space for us. And I know Nicki does that as well with the country fair and with her own home. She's sitting in our altar space. So, Catherine, would you like to talk to us a little bit about your altar, and then we'll talk to Nicki about her altar?
Well, when I learned about doing altars, I had never kept an altar. And I was at a gathering, and we were taught how to create an altar, the basics. And I remember thinking, how do I not know this? How have I not been doing this? This is the way life should be. It made so much sense to me. And I started making an altar. I went home from the gathering, and I had a little altar about this big on the floor next to my bed because I have a lot of stuff in my house, and that was where I had room. And I thought, well, I can start there. And the altar got bigger, and then I thought, well, I'll move it across the room. And I put it on top of my grandmother's cedar chest and had a nice cloth. And then I had things coming down the side. Then I had things going up the wall. Then I had things going across the wall. Then it was getting layered, bigger and bigger. And every time I put something new on the altar, it meant something to me. I would call it in, and I would hold that space of what that object was representing. And as I was sitting at it one night, I heard the guide say to me in a very loud voice, "We want a whole room." And I said, "Oh, okay, I'll do that this weekend." "No, we want it now." And I got my little butt up off the floor, and fortunately it was a weekend. I mean, it was like a Friday. And I pulled everything out of my office, my little condo, and moved everything around, smudged the room. I spent 2 days, I hardly slept, and made an altar room. And every direction I called in and put things that represented that direction, and the portals would open. And I got it all done, and I sat there praying. I had my pipe, I was praying, and I said, "So, are you happy?" And the voice said, "Well, it's a start."
We want the whole house.
We want the whole house. And basically that's what happens is you become the altar.
Mm-hmm.
So you can be an altar keeper, and you can have an altar room, and you can have altars for this and that and the other. But basically we are the altar. We're the altar of spirit. We're where spirit comes, we're the door spirit comes through. We're the door that we make the offerings to spirit. So we are the altars. And we walk around, and wherever we go, if we're carrying that attitude with us and that intention and awareness, then wherever we show up, we're the altar. And to be an altar keeper on that level requires a little bit more focus than have a than to have a candle and a little buffalo that you're.
I just finished writing a book with Normandy Ellis, co-writing with Normandy Ellis, a book that's called The Union of Isis and Thoth.
Oh.
It is the instructions for building the Adytum, which is the inner heart temple, which is the altar, sort of your ultimate Egyptian altar internally. Mm-hmm. And it was quite a wonderful process. Of course, working with Normandy had been a long-held dream of mine. We'd been teaching Egyptian mysteries for about 15 years and 6 journeys to Egypt, and it had always been my dream to write with her. But we didn't know what we were going to do. We just knew it was time, and we sat down and we called in Isis because she's obviously a Isis priestess, and I'm a priestess of Thoth, amongst all the other pantheon, of course. And Seshet came in, who is the goddess of writing. She's one of Thoth's consorts, and she is the keeper of the records, but she's also the one that lays the lines, that draws the cord, is what they call it, for the temples. So all of the temples in Egypt are made according to her direction and design. And so we all work together and managed to complete this book of instructions and initiations and rites of passage for building that internal addendum.
When is it coming out?
We haven't got a date yet. It's all in, and Normandy just had a full shoulder replacement, so we don't know whether they're going to, how soon they're going to want us to edit it, do the final edits, you know, where they're going to put us. But you know, hopefully she'll have her arm back by then. Otherwise, we'll manage. We had.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
It's going to be really great.
And yeah, it's pretty exciting. It was not what we expected. Of course, we never know what, you know, to expect. Whenever we do the mysteries, we usually get our instructions just a couple weeks before we start getting the instructions, but the actual alchemy doesn't happen until we're in the process and doing the work, and then it just happens. But with regard to altars, my first altar was I carried with me everywhere, and it was crystals, you know, a crystal for every direction. And this was back in the early 70s when you could get those really fine Arkansas crystals. I probably still have some on my altar. Yeah, the good stuff. But here, I'll see if I can show you. What happened was I realized that it was a lot to carry around this bundle of crystals, running to Egypt and running here and running there and everywhere I went and setting this up. And I realized that when you set it up, now this is a very working altar. It looks probably a bit cluttered because there's so much on it. Let's see if you can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Can you see it?
Yep.
And this is an altar room, and it's also a writing room, but it's become more just an altar room, and it's got the water altar up there. Let's see if you can see where the water altar is.
Yes.
With the medicine Buddha and white buffalo calf woman. And so this is my work room, but eventually, like you said, a room isn't enough. It's just a start. And so we have the temple.
Right.
And this weekend, Indigo Ronlove taught Alchemical Healing. And Jaya helped her, and they had Jaya Aronson, and they just had this amazing retreat in the middle of winter. And I was so happy to see all the energies come alive and that altar being used and being alive, because that's, you know, what happened when Normandy and I started doing the mysteries here back in, what was it, 97, did we figure out?
Yeah, I think so.
7. We started, Seshet came in and taught us how to consecrate a temple. And so first we consecrated the outer temple, and so the whole garden and all the land culminating in Thoth's chapel, which is where we study and do the teachings, is all consecrated in as close to the ancient Egyptian instructions as you can get now. We're in a different age and a different time with different materials, but a lot of the basics and a lot of the magic is very, very similar and comes right out of the ancient Egyptian mysteries. And so that's just been building and developing for all these years until it was just a few years ago. It was 2011 that the teachings became the building of the Adytum, and we learned how to consecrate and build the temple within. And then when we wrote the book, of course, that was expanded upon. And so it's not only how to build it, how to dedicate it, how to write and do the hymns and invocations and all the things that come with it, but what you do once you have it and the kind of work that you can do in it. And even though the temple, the garden, this altar are with me wherever I am, and there's been a lot of significant signs of magic that have occurred simultaneous, where I'd be working in our mountain temple in Switzerland, and the garden here would take a bow. Mark would call me in Switzerland and say, "What were you doing at such and such a time?" And we'd be in the middle of ceremony, really high ceremony. And so that connection is always there. So especially now that I'm older, it's much easier to leave my altars at home and carry the one in my heart and know that they're all connected. And all of the beings and all of the guides and all of the plant medicines are all accessible through the magical work we do at our altars. This altar, that altar.
I first met Nicki back in either 1985 or 86. It was a long time ago. Both of us were much older then. And Nicki had an altar that she hauled around with her that was quite impressive and quite heavy and took up lots of room and required lots of setup. And it kind of grew over the next 2 or 3 years, I remember. And it was like, okay, where's the limit here? Well, obviously the limit is the size of her car.
Limit?
Well, she bought a van. So obviously the altar needed more room in order to travel. And whenever she made the decision that she didn't have to carry all that, all of us acolytes or apprentices or whatever you want to call us kind of went, phew, because we knew that then we didn't have to set it up and bring all that stuff in. And,
there's a great deal of schlepping that goes along with being an altar priestess.
Yeah, being an altar babe is a huge amount of schlepping.
Lots of schlepping.
Yeah.
Well, I've passed the Oregon Country Fair altar to Indigo Ron Love. So although it still mostly comes from my temple and my altars, there's many new things and new people and new energy, and it's really exciting to watch it grow, because what every teacher wants is for their student to surpass them. And it's really exciting to watch so many of them do just that. And like, for example, Ravenwood, your book on water altars is just a testament to what a teacher you have been for me.
Well, Nicki was my teacher as well, and still is my teacher, and I've learned so much at the altar of your temple in Oregon, and just from being with you over these years. So,
and all the time, You supported me when I was on the road, when I'd go to New Mexico, or I'd go here and there, and you'd show up. And
It was very fun. We've had a good time. So you've been a wonderful teacher, and so, you know, the altar work came in, but I might not have learned it had I not sat in your Thoth temple and learned those things, kicking and screaming in many
so
ways.
another one who's on the phone is Deb.
Not the easiest student.
Didn't you say that Deb Clarkin was on this call?
Yeah, Deb Clarkin is here, and Saisha is on here, and Jasmine.
Yeah, right. And Deb is now planning her first trip to Egypt.
All right.
Oh, awesome.
She's going to be taking a trip in March of 2016. It's mostly Canadians, but anybody's welcome. And Indigo is going to be taking her first trip, like her trip, with another wonderful shaman named Sandra Corcoran. And I really recommend that you have the two of them either simultaneously or one at a time on your show, because they have a lot to contribute. And but Indigo is certainly another one of my students that has, you know, taken the baton and run with it. And hopefully she'll have a book out soon, but I'm not free to talk about it yet. And then you have your wonderful book out.
Mm-hmm.
Discovering the Scribes of Ancient Egypt.
Yeah, that one was written with Norma D. Ellis. And so, you know, one of the things most of the people who are actually on the show tonight, listening to the show, I think have been to Eugene and been to the temple in Eugene. And for those of you who haven't been, there's a special magic that happens there that doesn't happen anywhere else. I mean, when Nicki comes other places, yeah, magic happens. And when she goes to Egypt, magic really happens. But the Eugene temple is different. And the picture in the background, whenever you signed up for this show tonight, is actually of Nicki's garden. Nicki has a gorgeous garden, several acres of it. I think it's 2 acres. And well, I don't know, it's huge.
I mean, I live on like 3 1/4 acres. I'd say the garden was probably an acre of it at least.
I don't know. I know it's far more than I would ever have, because I'd kill everything in it. My caretaker came by here today and asked me when was the last time I watered the plants out on my patio. And I said, they're getting rained on. And she says, well, I don't think it's enough. So I'm not a plant person. So rocks I do really well. Rocks and I understand each other. But the property in Eugene has a special vibration to it that if you have not been there, and Nicki does have a class there in May, the Egyptian Mysteries class, correct?
I think, I'm not sure. I was just trying to put all that together. I do know that I'm going to do an intensive personal and planetary alchemical healing, kind of an advance, maybe 6 days, in the end of July and beginning of August. And I'm going to do probably in May, I can't remember the dates that we figured, maybe even Memorial Day weekend, I'm not sure, either that weekend or the weekend before, of Egyptian Mysteries with Indigo. Because her trip is coming up in October. And I want people to really get how deeply she has learned to priestess and bring in these mysteries, and the you know, her training is very wide. She is actually, of everybody in all the years that I've been doing this, and I've led more than 60 trips to Egypt, she has made more of an impact on Egypt than anyone that I've ever taken. She has started a foundation. It's developed into a 501c3, and it's called Zara, and always wanted to deal with the problem of the trash and all the plastic that blows all over Egypt. And so she learned how to make plarn, and she goes out to the oases, and she goes and works with the Women's Center for Women from the Street and kids' middle schools in different areas, and she teaches them how to reuse all the plastic that's blowing around and turn them into water bottles and bags and useful materials. So it's changing the economy for the women. It's dealing with the trash, which was my dream, was always to find some way to contribute to cleaning up around those sacred monuments. And she's doing it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Oh, sorry.
But because of my back, I'm not traveling like I have been, although I am going to Alaska, but that's a cruise. That's something I really want to talk about.
Okay, well, tell us about the cruise.
It's an inland passage cruise, and it's a week. There's some really good teachers on it. Denise Lynn is coming. Lynn Andrews is coming. I can't remember who all is coming, but I'm just so excited to be a part of it because it's a part of the world I really wanted to see, and what better way to see it than cruising up the inland passage with a bunch of people studying shamanism. And so I'll be teaching healing and doing ceremony, and we'll be meeting with the local shamans in our ports of call. And there's only 50 cabins left on the entire boat. So if it's something you've been thinking about and have been putting off, I believe the dates, it ends on the 19th, so it must be around the 11th or 12th to the 19th.
May 11th or 12th. I can't remember.
June. It ends on my birthday, June 19th.
Oh, so it's going to be around the solstice.
Yeah, it'll be before the solstice.
Okay, so you'll have
marks from Seattle.
Mm-hmm. So while you're up there, you'll have basically the midnight sun.
Pretty exciting.
It is. I've been up to Alaska by the Inland Passage 3 times. Once on a cruise ship and twice on my own bottom. That means on my own boat. And it's an absolutely, without a doubt, the most incredible experience. It is like flying through the mountains whenever you're traveling on this, and it's like magical because there's not really a lot of people up there in southeast Alaska. I think Ketchikan has a total of something like 72 miles of road, and that includes all the little roads inside downtown Ketchikan. That's on the entire island that Ketchikan is on, and which is Revillagigedo, I believe. And then you go up to, do you go up to Sitka?
I'm not sure of the itinerary. I don't have it in my head.
Normally you'll do St. Petersburg and go through the passage over to Sitka. And if you get a chance, go to the Raptor Rescue Center. They have the most incredible eagles and hawks that they have rescued that have been shot or hurt, and they're nursing them back to health. They also have some ravens there. They have ravens there that are they're shamans in and of their own being. And so if you haven't been to Alaska, this is the opportunity to go. If you have been to Alaska, this is the opportunity to go with Nicki, which I guarantee you will be like nothing you've ever done before. She transforms everything she touches. So, and that's the other thing. If, I can say this, Nicki maybe not choose to, but the thing is, Nicki's classes are never the same. She has a format that she's supposedly going to follow, all right? And she has certain journeys that she's supposedly going to do. But nothing is ever the same. It's never the same class twice. So if you took Alchemical Healing 5 years ago, I guarantee you it's a different class now. And there'll be different people there. And it will be a completely different experience.
And it has the components from Planetary Healing that came later. So it's a lot more advanced in a sense. It's more up to date. Indigo's doing the foundation classes, and what I'm doing, and I'm really excited about it, is I'm doing individual and little tiny cluster classes. In other words, somebody can book a session with me, or they can book a clump of sessions, like 4 sessions, and we can work on whatever they want to work on. But what I'm realizing is a lot of people are wanting to study alchemical healing that way, to be supported as they go through the initiations, and do it directly with me. And so that's the new thing I'm really trying to develop, is more private sessions, card readings with the Anubis Oracle, and tutoring, the teaching. Yeah, it's pretty exciting, and of course it's I give a really good discount for the clumps too. It's a lot better way to. It's a less expensive way to do it than some of the other ways.
Yeah.
Mark reminded me to tell you, if you look up the Spirit of Alaska, I think it's I don't know what it's even called. I guess you just go to my website, shamanicjourneys.com, and click there. But if you do come to Alaska, you have to be sure and say you heard it from me, because that's the only way I get the credit for it. And that's helpful to allow me to have this luxury for my birthday of being able to go.
I wanted to go back to, I know you've got Alchemical Healing, Planetary Healing coming up this summer, and I know Raven is a graduate of both of those because she's one of our lineage holders and teaches them. And I wanted to get her to weigh in a little bit, because she always brings a new picture and a new view to things than others. Would you like to talk a little bit about your experience of coming to Eugene, and what had happened to you and how it changed you, or how it didn't change you?
Oh, it changed me completely. And I had been doing massage therapy. I lived in Seattle, and basically I didn't know it, but I was doing alchemical healing in the work I was doing, but I didn't know what that was. I would get these visions, and I remember one time I said to this client, just think of your shoulders. Let's just envision them like a coat hanger. I'm just going to lift them out, and we're going to shake the whole thing out and put it all back in. And then I unscrewed her knee and took it all apart and put it back together. And I was telling Nicki this, and she started laughing at me. She said, "Oh, you've already been doing this." And I said, "Doing what? I don't know what you're talking about." So for me, it was a huge shift to be able to accept that I could shift my consciousness and understand ways to do this healing work in a different way. And it was very hard for me to learn. I spent a lot of classes going outside crying because I was absolutely sure I didn't get any of it. And then I would just have these visions, and Nicki would say, well, what did you see? And I'd say, well, I didn't see anything, but this and this and this happened. And she would just laugh at me until I finally figured it out. And to me, I found out that I do better when I'm doing it for someone, or if I'm teaching it. So for me to sit down and get the visions on my own is not all that easy. But if I'm working with somebody, even through my tarot cards, because that's the way I do most of this now. So, but if I was doing it with clients, if I was teaching, if I'm doing tarot sessions, that's when it comes in for me. And now I understand that what's happening is I'm getting information. So the way I see it is the guides give me pictures and information that I understand for help, whatever the situation is. And then I can say to someone, okay, let's imagine or picture or let's focus on this because I see it. And then sometimes they'll go, well, I don't know what you mean. And I'll say, well, all right, let's change the viewfinder here and get another picture of it. And you get another picture until the client can understand what it is the guides are trying to get through, to give to them. So I think the important thing for me was learning how to be that channel, so to speak, of being able to get that information, translate it into something that my client could understand so that that energy could flow through clearly and smoothly and do the work that it's supposed to do. I always said alchemical healing is like Reiki on power tools.
You know,
these are your power tools, and they're all wired for other things. And so once you figure that out, then to me that was difficult. And once I got there, it was huge, and it totally changed who I am.
One of the things that people don't realize is a really important part of priestessing is becoming an oracle. That a priestess is, when a priestess is fully functioning, they are an oracle for the divine source. And they are speaking directly for the god, the totem, the plant, whatever it is that they're priestessing. It's not all about gods and goddesses. It's about the unseen intelligence in the many forms and formless ways that we interact, and how to be present enough to receive that information, and true enough, dedicated to Ma'at enough to express those truths in an impeccable way.
I never do a tarot session without calling in the guides, ever. I will not. So I call in my guides, their guides. I work with who I call the Great Council of Tarot, call them in, I call Thoth in, and then I see what happens. But I don't do readings for people unless I do that. And if people like, well, what are you doing? I say, well, this isn't about me telling you what to do. It has nothing to do with my opinion. It has to do with what I'm being told for you. And I'm able to do that, first of all, because I learned how to do that from you, and second of all, because I've studied these things since 1975, so, you start to learn a few things in that amount of time. But I agree with you, Nicki. I think that we all know people who it's about them. It's about their ego. It's about them saying, oh, I can make this happen. I can heal you. This is what you need to do. And that's, to me, is not being a priestess or a priest. That's being an ego person. So to be able to bring it through the guides is really, truly the call.
The evolution of alchemical healing has come to a place where it's all of that part of it is packed into that one practice of the heart breath, through which you can set up an altar, create a world circle. I just set a date for the next Planetary Healing call to action. I try to do it every month, a free Planetary Healing call to action, and then the last 2 months have been crazy, and so I just realized, oh my God, I have to do it. I think I'm going to do it February 3rd. But if you go to shamanicjourneys.com and get on my mailing list, if you're not on my mailing list, you'll get an invitation in the next few days, because I just realized it's time. I have to do something. The planet is... Yeah, and I'd like to hear from people. Is there any way on this show that we can hear from people, the listeners?
Well, they've been commenting all along. Jasmine says, I'm so happy to hear that info, Nicki. I would love to deepen, and it's difficult with the border. She says she has the Jan says she has compulsion to help with the plastic problem in the oceans. Thanks so much for having this webinar. It's so wonderful to be able to connect with you. At one point in my life, I was living the story of Isis and Osiris and read Dreams of Isis at that time. My dresser has a large mermaid and shells all over it. She's pledged to the ocean. And Debbie Clarkin says hi. Saisha says, the union of Isis and Osiris, Thoth. Oh my, I remember when I told you I had a problem with Thoth, even though I'm initiated into the Thoth lineage. But you said, but Saisha, he serves the goddess. That changed everything for me. So,
He taught Isis everything that she knows. I mean,
Gloria, hit your cough button. Nicki and I will talk for a while. Nicki, I told her she got coughing. She hit her cough button, and you and I just keep going. So,
okay.
Keep talking, Nicki.
All right, I'll keep talking. So the reason that I asked that question is because those of you, if you can make comments, if you would make comments on what the subjects of this next planetary healing call to action could be that would excite you and get you to get on the phone and do ceremony to make a particular change happen or to work on a particular planetary issue. So if you wouldn't mind, that would be a really cool thing. And then when Gloria is, I think she's over her coughing fit, but when she's ready, then she can read us those comments. That would be cool.
So people can just type that in the public chat.
right.
Is there a public chat here?
Yeah, it's the thing that looks like lightning on an Apple computer. If you click on that and click on chat, you can see it all.
I don't know where my glasses
That's all right, Nicki. We'll read it to you.
We'll read it for you, Nicki. Mine's already up. It just automatically.
This is part of the job of the priestess whenever you serve Nicki.
Saisha, it's really nice to have you on board.
Yeah.
And Jasmine, I mean, people I haven't seen in a really long time.
Seisha was in Albuquerque, and so I went down and met her at the hotel, and we had dinner, and it was great. So I hadn't seen her in 15 years. It was really nice.
Yeah, it's been too long.
Yeah, those were good days driving down to your place.
So, has anybody made any comments on what they...
Now, Momi says, I've heard of Nicki since the 80s and never met her. It's good to connect today. I've been to Egypt 3 times and it changed my life.
No, nobody's sent in about what they'd like to do for the planetary healing call.
No.
Except that Jan has been talking about the oceans and the plastic.
Yeah, I would think that basically what I would see from this is oceans, plastic, and borders. We've got people calling in from up in Canada, and we know it's, one of the issues is trans borders. Dealing with the border at this point in time, whether you're crossing into the U.S. or into Canada or into anywhere. I mean, my God, you cannot imagine what it is like to try and cross back from Mexico into the United States.
And yet it's so easy to go to Egypt.
Yeah, well...
I mean, going in is smooth, coming out is smooth, traveling through it is smooth. It's so weird. You'd think that that's where you'd run into really heavy... I mean, it's just feels safer than an LA freeway by a long shot.
I guarantee it's safer than the LA freeway.
Nicki, you're doing it on February 3rd?
Doing which?
Your
The
next
call to action. I believe that's
going to interfere with this program.
It's going to interfere with this program?
Yeah, we're always Tuesday nights.
It's going to be
change it to Wednesday night.
Yeah, that would be better.
And do it the 4th.
Yeah. And we have Ava Park from Orange County Goddess Temple going to be on February 3rd. So,
well, I don't want to
no, you won't.
Interrupt you.
All right.
Well, I'll do it on the 4th. I haven't put it out yet. I'll change it to the 4th.
Thank you.
It'll be at 7 o'clock. 6 o'clock your time?
Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
6 Pacific.
It's a ceremony. It'll be either using the tools from the book I wrote with my husband Mark Hallert, Planetary Healing, Global Spirit Medicine for Global Transformation, which is just chock full of tools and things that you can do on a planetary level and to deal with larger situations and, you know, bigger problems and challenges using alchemical healing. And so sometimes, most of the time, we, depending upon what we're working on, pick something from the book, or else something new will come in. I was just asked by a plant to bring in a special journey from that plant, so who knows what that's going to be, and maybe that'll be what we do. I don't know.
Again, I want to stress there is nothing with Nicki that is ever set in stone, and whatever it is, it's going to be new and different and original, and you'll love it. So Jan would like to work on everyone waking up to the need of the ocean, taking action regarding the choices affecting the ocean's climate change. So
climate change is such a huge one. I mean, it really, in some ways, the most challenging and drastic of all the problems we have. I mean, we think of all the wars, and they're just getting the violence and the cruelty and the outrageousness of has gone so beyond anything we could have imagined 20 years ago that it feels like we're entering into a world war that's just, you know, a completely new paradigm of the same old I don't know how to say it without using bad words.
Same old shit.
The same old shit.
Same old shit. Well, luckily, we're on YouTube. We can say what we want to say here.
It just gets worse and more unbelievable, and it's just like it's like a computer virus that is just moving around the planet. And at the same time, we're dealing with the fact that we're destroying the planet, and the people in charge, or at least that, you know, that have kept the people who are supposed to be in charge from doing the right thing, are going to make this planet unlivable. And, you know, when those are the two big issues right now that I see that need to be dealt with, and the oceans is a huge part of that. So I'll look to see if something new wants to come in for the waters. Because I believe
there's an interesting thing that I read recently, which is about the 5 gyres that are the places where garbage gathers in the ocean.
There's 5. If I only knew about one of them.
No, there's 5 of them.
5.
And they are these places where there are miles wide tracts of garbage that have been collected the way that the ocean flows in such a way that it brings it all together. And there are no-go zones for boats because they're very dangerous. One of the things that is floating in them is containers that have fallen off of ships. I'm talking about these 40-foot-long containers. And the gyres are like a vortex, and what they do is they take that down, but then they bring it right back up. And what happens is that the plastic is pelletized until it becomes microscopic. And whenever the fish eat that, their alimentary canals become filled with this pellet-sized plastic, and they're unable to take in nutrition. And one of the problems is with like the baleen feeding whales, the whales that feed on krill and other very small items, is that they're taking in this plastic and it's filling up their krill, their baleen, so they can't take in nutrition. Now, here's the thing. If the oceans die, we die. I mean, there's no option there. If the oceans become a desert, so to speak, where there is no life, life on this planet ceases to exist because it is necessary for us to have the oceans in order for us to survive. It is what creates this planet the way this planet is. We're 75% ocean on this planet. Without that oceans, without the ice caps, we cease to exist. Cockroaches will probably survive. They've managed 500 million years on this planet, and they will probably survive. In fact, I would imagine there are cockroach conferences sitting around all over the world going, how can we get rid of this latest infestation called humans? But as far as the oceans are concerned...
Humans are doing a really good job themselves.
Yeah. So,
each other and themselves.
Yeah, so the ocean issue is a huge issue. The climate change is a huge issue. All of them are ones that we have within our ability to change. We have the ability to make a difference, whether or not it's, as Raven does, saving water whenever she showers and using it for watering her plants instead of just allowing it to go down the drain, or whether it is putting in drought-friendly plantation instead of things that are going to use up all of the fresh water. But also the fact that without the ocean, and I'm a sailor, I am passionate about the ocean. I am passionate about the incredible wonders of the ocean. And I think everybody should be forced to live on a boat for a year because it will make you get rid of your shit. Stuff. Sorry. So it is, one of those places where, as a priestess, we have to hold that space of the Virgin, as Jan says. The ocean is the Virgin Mary. It's Isis. It's Yemaya. It is that sacred place from which we come and to which we will return. Mm-hmm. So, as far as planetary healing is concerned, yeah, I kind of think that maybe the oceans would be a good place to work.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Nothing like a little soapbox tonight. I get a little soapbox.
Let's see. Maybe we can neutralize the plastic, Nicki.
That's another interesting one. I mean, there's just so many places, and then who knows what's going to happen between now and the 4th. That's going to command our attention, because sometimes I'll have something planned and say, okay, we're gonna do this, and then something happens on the planet that just. What is that? What are you holding?
The ocean.
Wait a second.
It's a picture of the ocean.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
It's a card I received, and I just thought it's so pretty that it just was right here behind my back. So since we're talking about the ocean, I thought I'd just have a little beautiful picture to show.
Well, I guess I might just have to take a little journey and go see what the ocean would like to teach us.
Well, you're only about 60 miles from it. So, and you've got some really nice
I'm not
ocean.
going to take that kind of journey.
Oh. Well, I would recommend that kind of journey. And I got to tell you, you got some nice ocean over there. And I miss that ocean. I miss one of the things I miss about, I love Southern California. I love Southern California oceans and beaches, but I really miss the northern coastal waters. And the Oregon coast, we used to go every year to the Oregon coast and up into British Columbia. You know, Jasmine lives up there in some of the most beautiful country in the world. And I miss that. And if I could spend 2 months out of the year there and then leave when it starts raining, I would do it. So I want to thank you for being with us tonight. And we are at the hour. So, but I want to remind everyone that Nicki's got Alchemical Healing coming up this summer. She has Egyptian Mysteries with Indigo coming up this in May, and the cruise to Alaska. If you really want to experience the oceans, go out and cruise on the boats.
But it's the privates that I'm really interested in doing. I find when I do private sessions, whether it's for healing or for jump-starting one in their spirituality or teaching or doing the cards, it's like it's always relevant for me as well. It's like I'm learning in doing it. And that's what keeps it exciting for me. Do you find that, Raven, with your readings? It's like they're all pertinent in so many ways.
Yeah, what I find is that every reading I do, every session I do is actually for me.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
you're bolder than I, but I would have to say the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Yes, it's for the person, but they're just holding up a mirror for me to see what I need to look at as well. You know, it's like I've never had somebody. I suppose, you know, if I had more readings, I might have people that have issues that I don't have, but I've never had that.
Name one. We've all got.
That's the thing, you know. So, you know, if you want to talk about children or you want to talk about elders or whatever, you know, and right now most people I'm talking with, it's about elders and dealing with your elders. And of course, I'm dealing with my husband who's an elder, and my teachers who are elders, and you know, it's all these issues.
And pain is another one. Chronic pain.
Yeah, pain.
Big one.
Pain is so debilitating. You know, if you have somebody who tells you that they're in pain all the time, realize that that pain sucks the energy out of their body. That it's you know, it's what it is just like, it's like having a vampire on your back, so, or on your head or wherever the pain is. I know Raven's currently going through having her tooth having problems because she's had a crown and she's been in pain for a month. And so she's getting to explore pain in a new and interesting way. But before we go, Raven, I wanted to let you say a minute about your readings. So you do private readings, both online and in person.
Yes. Over the phone mostly. I can do them online, although for some reason my Skype has gone crazy and I haven't figured out what's wrong with it. But I do readings over the phone or in person in Albuquerque. And I do a lot of things in this world well, and I think the tarot is my thing. I love it. And so that's what I do, and happy to do it, and happy to call in the guides and see what they have to say. A lot, you know, my sister just died, and so I have not been online doing things. Usually by this time of year, I put an offer out, but I can offer, for those of you listening now, $10 off my usual price if you mention this, and we'll find out what year you're in, what tarot card year you are in. I'm in a Tower year. And overall, we're in a Strength year. And so we see how the overall year of Strength interacts with your personal year of what year you're in, what tarot card you are in this year. So I always like to do that towards the first of the year. So hopefully I'll be getting something out soon on my newsletter about that. But also, a lot of you were very supportive with me lately, and I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
So how do people find you?
Oh, my email, letter K Ravenwood at Yahoo.
Or KatherineRavenwood.com.
Or KatherineRavenwood.com, or you can call me.
Yeah, we're pretty easy to find.
On my website.
My phone number's on every email that you get. So, and that's my cell number. So, any of you want to call me, give me a call.
Call me, text me, email me. Come knock on me in the dream time, whatever works.
And Nicki, you want to do more of the private sessions, the small group sessions?
And I do them on Skype or on Maestro, or, maybe I'll do them on Google Hangouts if there's a few people that want to work together with me. And then people don't have to fly in, which is really kind of cool. It's amazing the intimacy of what we can do on the telephone with this alchemical healing work. It's really quite astonishing. So I'm looking forward to sharing it in that way.
Well, thank you, and thank you for being with us, both of you, tonight. I really appreciate it. I always appreciate my guests. I also appreciate all my guests who are watching this show, whether you're watching it live or whether you're watching it in the recording. Please leave comments if you're watching it in the recording and let me know you've been there. And you can find us on Facebook at agatheringofpriestesses.com. If you ask to join, I'll probably let you join. It is a private group. We also have my Facebook. Nicki and I are both. We started out in a contest to see who could get the most friends on Facebook, and I think we've basically had a tie. I think she's at 4997, and I'm at 4997. So,
I moved to another page when it hit 5, and then I realized that it would shrink, and I have these hundreds of people waiting, and so just every time that it drops below, then I just add some others.
Yeah, so
you girls are just so popular.
Oh yeah, I know.
A little bit.
I haven't been doing Facebook because of my back. I haven't really done much on Facebook, so I recommend that people go to my website and shamanicjourneys.com and get on my mailing list, and also my Facebook page. But I also have an author Facebook page that you can get on.
Yeah, Raven and I both have an author page as well. You can follow us on there. Raven has her 7 Directions class, which is a Facebook page. I have about 8 or 9 of them.
And my book has a Facebook.
Even a Planetary Healing group.
Yeah. So, Mark Zuckerberg's desire is for all of us to be on Facebook all the time. So we're obviously going with his issues. I want to thank you again, as I said, and I want to thank you for being here tonight. Next week we will have Hallie Evelyn, who's going to be on, and she's coming to us from Miami, Florida. The week after that we'll have Ava Park from, is that the next? Yeah, Ava Park from the Goddess Temple in Orange County. A really incredible place. If you've never been there and you're in LA, Orange County, or San Diego, take a trip and go to the Orange County Goddess Temple on a Sunday. It's really women only. It's a really remarkable experience. We have some other people that are coming on, including Linnea Weatherstone, and Karen Tate will be with us. We're going to be having, as I said, I'd like to have some new people. So if you'd like to be on, Saisha and Jasmine and Debbie, all three of you. Let me know, and I'll put you on the schedule. We are delighted, as always, to have Nicki on. And we want to say thank you to all of you who helped support Normandy in her rehab.
Oh,
And she is doing well.
that a mind blow.
Yeah, and she
is so thankful.
Yeah, and so she is. She's getting her elbow. She's getting out of her sling this coming week, I believe.
She is?
Yes, that's what she said on Facebook. You have to be on Facebook, otherwise you don't know what anybody's doing. My kids, the only way I hear from my kids is on Facebook. So thank you all, and thank you for being here tonight, and I love you all, and we'll see you next week on A Gathering of Priestesses.